Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well and welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we jump into tonight's second half, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. All of these things, they really do help and they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? Today's first encounter. Myself and my friend Sarah were driving from Calgary, Alberta to Cranbrook, British Columbia via Fairmont Lake in April of 2020 to retrieve our trailer. It was evening, about 9-ish, but not quite dark. We were about an hour from Cranbrook before Fort Steele, but not exactly sure where. We were driving uphill, the incline, and there was a drop down on the right-hand side into a field with some rocks, trees, and wetland-type area. The lights from the car had caught red eyes of something black standing on two legs, quite tall, maybe 6 to 7 feet, leaning against and looking into an old tree stub, fairly close to the road. It moved its left arm and shoulder as it turned its body to look at us. It didn't look like a dog, as it had shoulders and a waist, and as it turned, the headlights caught two red eyes and a head with a snout, like a dog or a wolf. We didn't notice a tail, though. We both saw it at the same time and shouted, "WTF, is that a werewolf?" Neither one of us are easily scared and enjoy wandering in the woods, but this energy felt evil, and we had never encountered anything like it. Put the pedal to the metal and almost became airborne going up that hill. We saged that night and said a prayer for protection. We could see it and feel those red eyes looking towards us. The next day we tried to figure out what we had seen. We didn't think it was a Sasquatch because its body was slim and not very hairy looking. It wasn't as tall as a Sasquatch would be. I don't know, actually, although we were looking down a bit on it. We wondered if it was a wolf or some big dog standing upright, but it didn't behave like a dog with those red eyes. There were no houses in the area either, and we could see from the road. We both still felt like we had seen a werewolf, even though neither of us really believed they existed. It's definitely something strange, a hybrid of some sorts, or something from another dimension. Alright guys, today's first video clip is a biker going down a bike path, and he is caught off guard by something jumping off of an embankment. At first I thought maybe CGI, but then I realized he swerved and it freaked him out. You could definitely tell by the reaction. So give it a look-see and let me know what you think. So, like I said, at first I thought it was CGI. You can see why. But then, after the second time watching it, I was like, no, no. The reaction time is perfect. It's spot on how he turns that bike. And he kind of makes this, I don't know, readjustment really quick. So, I'm not sure. What do you guys think? On to tonight's second encounter. My friend has had something odd happening to him for the past couple of nights. He's part native and has heard a bit about skinwalkers and such. He told me a few nights ago he thinks he messed up and proceeded to explain an incident in his childhood where he encountered something. He saw it while he was out at his cousin's farm in Texas 7 or 8 years ago, and recently brought it up in conversation with someone at work. A few days after this conversation, he was out having a cigarette when he locked eyes with what he at first thought was a coyote. It didn't fully fit the look of one. Its eyes seemed unnatural. Not like a normal coyote's eyes. It seemed more human. It was missing patches of fur and seemed to have an arched build to it. Its back legs were higher than its front. Its arms were gaunt and seemed off, first passing it off as a coyote with rabies or maybe mange, since he lives in southern North Carolina, where a lot of coyotes are active. He went about his business and gave the animal some space. During the day, however, he began remembering seeing something similar in Texas, and remembering his native side being very hush-hush about it afterward. Things escalated when he was in his room at around 2:33 in the morning, getting ready for bed, when he heard several loud footfalls on his roof, very heavy and very fast. Then the clanging of the metal roof over his screened-in porch. What set him into a panic was the fact that it was clear skies outside that night, and when the animal hit the fence of his house, it let out an almost sharp yelp of pain, and the sound is what scared him. It didn't sound like a fox or a bobcat. It sounded more like a wail, almost human or inhuman. He had heard the scream before in Texas. He came to me for advice, and I figured that maybe this creature was a skinwalker or possibly a dogman. He's planning on taking advice from his native side of the family. So tonight's second video clip is rather strange. The last couple of seconds are very creepy. I believe what this guy is picking up is possibly a REM pod, which is used for ghost hunting. It picks up movement and electromagnetic, and then in a set of beeping and pattern of lights lets you know that something is there. As he's bending down to pick it up, though, something kind of springs out at him, and you can tell he takes off. It's not a very long one, but it is very chilling if you just really look at it. All right, on to that video clip. So, you can see it at the very end. Whatever that thing is, it moves very strangely, awkward almost. I wish the clip was longer, but unfortunately it's not. Definitely creepy. Ugh. Just imagine. No, I don't want to imagine. Anyway, on to tonight's third experience. It was around 1999 and I was living in rural upstate New York. If you don't know or never have been to the Catskills, it's small town after small town surrounded by forest and farmland. Not much to do back then except hang out with your friends and drive around. At least that's what I did with my friends, beside the weekly house parties. My best friend and I were very into the paranormal back then, and we both experienced many unexplained things in our lives. Being in our late teens/young adults, we were curious. We both identified as Wiccan at the time and spent a lot of time in those woods. We would meditate, do earthly spells, have lunch, camp out, so needless to say, we were not afraid of the woods, the dark, or being completely isolated in the middle of nowhere. One night, on one of our late winter drives to nowhere, because, like I said, not much else to do, we ended up on a road where we hadn't really been before. We pulled off to the side where this old schoolhouse was. We parked the car, got out, and looked through the windows to check and see what was inside. It appeared to be kept up as a historical site, as there were old desks and an old chalkboard. It was very neat, but we did have the creep factor, like something was staring at us. So, of course, we returned there several times after, just to get to the place. A few times we went during the day with some other girlfriends to check it out. As we took a walk in the woods behind the schoolhouse, we got an odd feeling. The only way I can describe it is like what I've heard walking through a fairy circle feels. The ambient lighting around us felt different. I can't really describe it other than almost as more of a vivid color experience around us as the sun came through the trees. We didn't think we were there all that long, maybe an hour or so, but when we returned to the car it had been several hours, and it was early evening, maybe around 5 or 6 p.m. We got there around noon. One time my best friend and I went at night again. We were sitting in the car just talking, drinking our gas station bought cappuccino purchased for our night drive. And we kept hearing this tap, tap, tap sound out loud. I said, "Knock it off," to nothing that was there. Right as I say this, we hear what could only be described as a child's feet running away from behind to the side of the car. It freaked us both out, and we got out of there. There was no way anyone was there, and like I said, this was a rural main road to dirt road pull-off, completely pitch black, no street lights, no cars going by in the distance or anything. If someone did show up there, they would have been walking in the dark for miles to get there, and it certainly wouldn't be what sounded like a child running around the car. Kind of sad when you think about it now. I certainly hope it wasn't a roaming spirit of a child gone too soon from this place. Anyway, this is where the freakiest part happens. And we never returned to that old schoolhouse after this. As we were getting back onto the main road, there in the headlights, we could see something scurry across the road quickly. It looked like a hairless, naked human crawling low to the ground, its elbows bent high so that its belly was close to the road, and its knees looked as if they were bent backward. I remember both of us turning to each other, panicked, saying, "What?" and then, "WTF, did you see that? What the hell was that?" We drove kind of trembling and not saying much. I remember I kept looking in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see this thing chasing us down. Luckily, we didn't. Me and my friend are still besties to this day, and sometimes we talk about the series of events. Years later, we saw the movie The Descent, and immediately it made us both think of the old schoolhouse and the thing we saw run across the road that night. It was a freaky place, experience, and time. Also exciting and slightly terrifying. I now live across country, far away from New York, but I often wonder about that old schoolhouse in those woods. Someday, I think I'd like to return, now that I'm older and in a different place in my life. I would like to see if it's still there, and just see how it feels being back at that place. But I would never ever want to see that thing we saw that night many years ago. Alright guys, today's third video clip is what appears to be a group. There's many little flashlights in the video clip, and there's one light on a tree and a couple flashing around, and then finally all the lights hit the tree and this thing peers out from behind the tree, and the people just take off running up this hill and back to safety. Anyway, check it out. So whatever that is, it's definitely pale white. I know if I was in that predicament, I would be running as well. Once again, I'm leaving it up to you guys to tell me what you think. On to tonight's fourth experience. So the year was 2011. I spent living in rural Spain. One night, we were driving home through the vast countryside. On the way back to our place when I saw something running toward the back of the car and behind across the road. At first, I thought it was a dog because rural Spain is terrible for wild dogs or abandoned dogs all over the place. But as my eyes followed it to the verge on the other side of the road, I noticed the size of this thing. If it was standing up straight, it was probably 6 to 7 feet tall. It was running on all fours. A very sickly pale color, almost glowing in the moonlight, and absolutely no body hair at all. The overall vibe was more humanoid than canis, apart from it having an elongated dog-like nose. The only way I could describe it is weird in between stage in the movies when the dude is turning into the werewolf, and to this day, how I described what I saw. However, since reading crawler stories and experiences, lately I'm torn between seeing a crawler or possibly a dogman. What are your thoughts? I'd also like to apologize because Spanish is my first language. So, definitely a short but creepy experience. And given that English is their second language, or however you want to say it, I think they did a pretty good job explaining and describing what they saw, or what, they saw. Chilling. Very chilling. And on to tonight's final experience, which happens to be another group of people with some flashlights on a very terrifying creature.
We got hearing weird noises in the forest. What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? We got hearing weird noises in the forest. What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? We got hearing weird noises in the forest. What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? We got hearing weird noises in the forest. What the fuck? Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Tonight's final encounter. In late June of 2021, my sister and I were driving from Utah to Arizona. I was moving out of Phoenix. I don't remember the exact forest area, but it was right as we started the descent from the mountains in northern Arizona. My sister and I were having a conversation as she's driving. We enter into a clearing in the trees. As we came to this clearing, there was a very large rock on the right side of the road that caught my eye. Upon seeing this rock, I saw movement to the left of it. There was a very large, distinctly canine-shaped figure in the clearing next to the rock. As I stared, trying to make out what it was, we both went silent mid-sentence. I clearly saw eye shine. It was almost a reddish-orange hue. Whatever it was, locked in a stare with me and tracked the vehicle with its eyes. My blood ran cold, and I felt the feeling of utter helplessness sink over me. The feeling was accompanied by the thought that whatever this was could do some serious harm, and I would have no way to stop it. This creature only stood and stared at us as we passed. When the initial shock wore off a few seconds later, I quickly asked my sister if she had seen anything. Her voice was very shaky as she confirmed exactly what she had seen. A very large canine-like creature staring directly at us as we passed through that clearing. I have seen black bear up close and personally within 20 yards, and whatever this was clearly not a black bear. It was quite a bit larger and had more of a slender build and a very dog-like head and snout. My sister was very shaken by the experience and had tears in her eyes. Due to the fear she was feeling, she continued driving as we both felt completely unsafe to stop or even have a window down. She does not like talking about this to the day. I believe what we saw to be consistent with other reports of Dogman in Phoenix. I will never go into those woods alone. I hope what we saw was an optical illusion or misidentified animal, but I cannot shake the feeling that it wasn't, and still see it very clearly in my mind. Whenever I think about it, I am overcome with chills and begin to shake all over again. Alright guys, I am not sure what that first video was, if that was a crawler, some sort of dog creature, some sort of whatever. I don't know. All I know is I'm glad I wasn't the dude on that bike. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed tonight's second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for your support. It truly means the world to me. Also, stay safe, stay healthy. May the Great Spirit watch over all of us, and may He guide us down that path we call life.